Welcome back for the last session of our HR track. Thank you for joining us for this conversation around the future of automation in HR. I am Andrada Parashi, Vice President Hospitality at Beekeeper, and I'm excited to welcome Dan Wade, Vice President of People Operations for SH Hotels and Resorts. We find this to be a super relevant topic today as technology becomes more and more prevalent in the HR space across industries. And COVID has accelerated some of this adoption as well. What does this really mean for the frontline worker? And how do we ensure that this is money well spent and that we harvest the most out of this automation? Well, we'll try to find some answers today. And Dan, I know you are truly passionate about HR technology, and I'm excited to hear your insights and your full vision around the automation of HR. First, I would like to ask you to briefly introduce yourself and your organization.
Of course. As you mentioned, I'm Dan Wade. I'm the Vice President of People Operations for SH Hotels and Resorts, and we manage One Hotels, Baccarat Hotels, Treehouse Hotels, and the SH Collection globally. So hotels currently in China, UK, opening soon in Toronto, Mexico, and throughout the US.
Great properties. And one housekeeping item before we get started for the audience. If you have any questions, please add them in the chat on the right-hand side, and we'll respond to as many as we can at the end of the session. If we aren't able to get your question, no worries, we'll follow up with you directly after. So Dan, to get us warmed up, I would like to ask you, what trends have you seen in HR automation?
Yeah, I think the trends are that automation is impacting HR in every way possible. But I think the key to automation is to how do you keep it personal? Because no one likes the auto response. They don't like when you call and get an auto response. And it's impacting us from hiring and our talent assessments. We actually, when someone starts with SH, they take a talent assessment, and the interview questions are pre-populated based on the responses to their questions. So it's automated, but it's personal based on the candidate's profile. We've also used it, for background checks. For everything in the candidate process is all automated each step throughout the process, all the way to the offer letter. So each step is automated, but I think the key when you're looking at automation is how do you also keep it personal, because the person on the receiving end is receiving this, and they don't just want an out of office reply. They want to feel that you're truly communicating. And we've done that through our SH University and our development, that the career tracks in there are based specifically on the individual. So they're pre-populated and it's automated, but it's specific to the person. And lastly, we did it through our onboarding process. We partnered with a company called Apical, that there's kind of that awkward time between when you sign an offer letter through like your first 30 days, really trying to figure out about a company. So we've gone in and it's automated, but it's self-paced. People can go in on their own time and find out who is this Barry Sternlicht guy, and who is Arash, and what is One Hotels all about, and what is our mission around sustainability, and all of that is automated. So we really automated things, but also tried to look at the human impact, that sometimes can get lost in automation if you're not careful.
That's a great point and super important. So you already mentioned some technologies. I mean, what are some newer technologies that you have that have become even hotter in the new normal, and what benefits do they bring?
Yeah, it was a challenge because when we were going through COVID, obviously we weren't looking to launch new platforms, right? So it was, how do we leverage what we have? So our partnership with Beekeeper, we kept every team member active in Beekeeper so that we could communicate the constant changes of COVID and when things were opening and closing. In some of the automation stuff is we created resource guides at all of our hotels for every team member could log in and say, like, how do I get unemployment? What are my benefits? What are some resources in the local area? How do I access the Starwood Cares Employee Relief Fund? And we were able to automate that. I think one of the really new technologies is we partner with a company for a relief fund that was, when you talk about automated but personal, our team members could go in and apply for relief in the fund, and they had a live PDF check within 24 hours of applying. So, when you talk about the impact of having, technology, but on a personal level, it was really amazing. I think the other thing that we did is, I talked about Apical that we used for our onboarding process. Well, we looked at it and said, well, how do we reboard everyone and ensure that they're going to be safe coming back? So we did a returning to work during COVID learning on Apical, and we had all of our team members be able to take the training, and we were able to verify before they came back to work. So we didn't have to do like a classroom environment, with COVID blowing up everywhere. They were able to access it on their phone and take the training, from anywhere, from home or wherever they were. It
Yeah,
was it was really just leveraging, some of the existing, tools and resources we had.
yeah, no, thank you. Um, I'll go now talk a little bit about some of the potential challenges with HR technologies. I mean, they are generally meant for everyone, all the employees, right? Yet most frontline employees that don't have access to a computer, they don't have access to any technology because of that, right? So how successful are we in putting these technologies that we purchase in the hands of the frontline employees?
I think that the first thing is to look what's already in everyone's hand, and it was their mobile device. And so, for us, years ago, people said, well, people don't have access, but 90% of our team members have smartphones. And by, partnering with Beekeeper, we were able to, communicate globally to our team members in China and the UK and all over the globe instantly in real time of, evolving events and what was happening. And they were also able to communicate to us, it's a two-way communication, so we could get real-time information. So again, I think, as companies look at these, massive investments, kind of take a look at what you already have. And, your team members have, mobile phones that in traditional environments, you don't want them on their phone during work, but we kind of encourage it to, to be able to keep in touch with what's going on. And we're able to push out things like our, not only COVID and all of that stuff, but who our VIP guests are and who's coming in, and our, daily rallies, that we send out to everyone, that they're getting right to their mobile device every day throughout the day.
So as a follow-up question to this, like what happens if not everyone has access to the technology, or they don't want to use their phone, or they may not even have a smartphone? Right? Is our investment still worth it as a company if some people are still using the old ways, or versus their phone or the technology?
Well, I think it's really leveraging that we, in all of our departments and, in most industries, we have a pre-shift rally that we do in every department, in every hotel. And, it's interesting, the department head certainly has a smartphone. So when they're leading their morning rally, they're just going through Beekeeper to see what's on there that they want to cover in the morning rally. So, although we encourage everyone in our immersion, when people are going through, we actually walk them through, part of immersion is Beekeeper, and they actually create their account, do their login, and do their first post during their immersion. So, we can address any needs then. If someone says, well, I don't have a smartphone or whatever, we can address those concerns. But once they get out there to their departments, they're being used in our pre-shift rallies. And so, other workarounds that we've created is most of our hotels have monitors that are in the cafeteria or in the heart of the house hallways that have either Beekeeper feeds, or the same information that's going on Beekeeper is being posted, throughout the heart of the house so that people can get it. And then we also, in most of our hotels, have computers in the back of the house so people can go in and access those at any time.
Thank you. Now we talked about the HR automation is on the rise. We also talk about personalization. So, what would you, where would you want HR automation to go? Which improvements, where do you see it ideally so that you can get the most out of your HR stack and of your investment?
Yeah, it's amazing. One of the things I'm the most excited about from a technology standpoint is we have all candidates take an assessment online before they start working with us. In a very short period of time, in the last 14 months or so, we have 700,000 data points that we're able to look at what profile created our best employees. And then we're able to constantly raise the bar to say, we know that this profile makes the ideal candidate. So it's kind of leveraging that big data that we have all of this information, to be able to find the best person for the position. The other thing that's really interesting with our talent assessment is that most talent assessments have 3 or 4 different tracks of whether it's a manager or it's a hourly employee or whether it's a front of the house or back of the house position. We actually have 21 different assessments that we've gone through and rated every position and what are the key elements for that position. And we're able to take that assessment and see how they would score in any position in the company. So when we're looking at succession planning and we're looking at those things, we can pull up their assessment and kind of know before the process of how well they're going to do in that position, which is really, really exciting as we're growing as a company to be able to take that and then make the right moves and the right people in the right places, and know that we're setting them up for success by using their strengths in the assessment. I think the other really big challenge that I think all of us are dealing with is a single sign-on. We've been working on it for about 1.5 years now. It was put on hold during COVID, but like most companies, there's 4 or 5 different apps that you can use to navigate in our company, and we really want to have one stream that people can go to. And we've done that a lot through Beekeeper, of that we have all of the links to all of the different sites in Beekeeper, so they can just click on it within the platform and then go directly to their assessment or go directly to SH University or go directly to our job board. But the next step with that would be a single sign-on, so that they sign on once and they have access to everything.
Yes, definitely. I think the easier we make it for employees to access tools that they need, then they will actually access them, and save time in the process, right? They can use the time for more added value activities. And you mentioned, I really like that, the technology you mentioned where you use, we can predict, people before you hire, their success in the company and different roles. At some point in the past, you were thinking with Beekeeper too to predict the, I guess, probability that somebody would leave, right, based on their activities within Beekeeper, to have a churn score for the different employees. We haven't done it yet, but I think it's in this direction, right? It's predicting the success, but also the probability for churn, which will be super important, and being able to do something to retain your employees that are more likely to leave.
It's amazing. We're able to tell that through engagement on Beekeeper, but we actually have an engagement team, a Beekeeper engagement team within the company, from represented through all different parts of the company, that we're sending out, because we have streams for every hotel, and then we have a corporate stream. So they can do hotel specific, or they can go over to the corporate stream and see stuff that's happening throughout the company. And that team is able to activate things. Like, we started a campaign called Share the Love, and it was everyone had access to corporate, and we just put flashback pictures of yourself and just different activations to really drive the engagement within Beekeeper, because we saw a direct correlation to the more engaged people were, the more engaged they were. The more engaged they were in Beekeeper, the more engaged they were with the company.
Yeah, no, Totally true. Um, so, we talked about going this big data direction, and what are the biggest risks that would prevent us from reaching this, you know, automation of HR in the future or continuing to evolve in that direction?
Yeah, I think there's two things. I think the biggest risk is security. I mean, we see companies all over the place that are having security breaches, and so we have to do it in a way that our team members feel safe sharing data with us. That they know that the data is secure. They don't want their information shared. Um, and then the other thing are costs, because technology is always evolving. If you put too much into one specific thing, then a year later there's an update or there's somewhere else. So I think the two things are costs and security. So it's really leveraging those to say, I'd rather start small and build within, because I don't look at our vendors as vendors. I look at them as partners. So when we're partnering with them, we're kind of pushing each other to evolve. Um, and I know, not too long ago, we were able to connect our recognition platform with Beekeeper. So we have Bucket List and Beekeeper, where we're able to recognize team members. Had I gone with, a more traditional recognition platform, we would have spent, you know, tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars to create that. Being able to link those two and take a relatively small company like Bucket List and be able to create a global platform for recognition. And not to get off on a tangent on that, but what's really unique with Bucket List is each of our hotels have created curated experiences, and we recognize team members with tokens, and they can use those tokens to purchase curated experiences. So, it could be an eco tour of the Everglades in Florida, or it could be, botanical gardens in Brooklyn, or it could be, a Broadway show for team members at Baccarat in New York. So, but there's these curated experiences, and like most of us, we don't explore the places we're in, and SH and One Hotels and Treehouse and Baccarat are really about exploring nature. So, using that platform to be able to get our team members to explore places that they may not have had a chance to do before.
And I think this sounds great. And this personalization, we're going back to this. If we can do it for our guests, I think we should be able to do it for our employees too. And you're going in that direction.
Absolutely.
Right. That's amazing. And we talk about costs. You are obviously, the cutting edge technology for HR. I mean, you talked about a lot of different companies or partners that you have. And one question that I have for you, and I bet everybody in the audience would like to know, is how do you get your CEO on board with your vision and get the company to invest in these HR technologies?
Well, we're really, really fortunate that our CEO is a huge proponent of people strategies, of culture, and of technology. So, sometimes it's almost he's pushing us versus us trying to get his buy-in. So it's we're very fortunate that Arash is super passionate. And just an interesting story, when I first started with SH, I was meeting with Arash and I said, so Arash, just so we're aligned, I just want to know your top 3 priorities. And he said, it's pretty simple: culture, culture, and culture. So, as we look at ROI, I just kind of step back and say, does this help reinforce our values? Does this help build our culture? And really, that's kind of the lens in which we look at things. Does it reinforce our values, and does it help build our culture? And if it does those things, it's a pretty easy to get a yes from our CEO.
You're lucky. Arash is a great CEO. And I mean, so that's one thing, it's the cost of investment. And then on the other hand, it's your team's bandwidth, right? You'll have to implement these different programs. And then also the organization as a whole. I mean, it has to go through change management and learn to do things a little bit differently. And how do you manage that?
Yeah, it's interesting because when I started with SH, it was super exciting. And I looked at everything we wanted to do, and I was like, at the time, I'm like, okay, I'm an army of one. And so you look at everything that we've been able to roll out. But what I was able to do is to give our property HR teams um, kind of the autonomy and a seat at the table to have a global platform. So what I did is I had each one of our HR directors and their teams pick an area that they were passionate about, and then work with me to create the system for it. So, you know, Apical came through our people ops director in Brooklyn Bridge. You know, he was creating a new immersion and onboarding process, and came with that. Our people ops director in West Hollywood was passionate about recognition, so she explored everything recognition and came back with bucket list. And so each one of them, so it was really about um, it's amazing when you pick things that they're passionate about and then give them the autonomy to have a global platform. And there's nothing more exciting than when our people ops director from Brooklyn did a global tour to roll out our new onboarding process in South Beach and West Hollywood and throughout New York. And so really, I mean, I think it's exciting for the team to be able to have a global impact on things that they're passionate about. So, um, we've since expanded my team a bit. I have an amazing um, corporate director of cultural development and a corporate director of talent acquisition and a partner in diversity, equity, and inclusion. So, really been able to grow the team, but it was, kind of work with what you have and leverage, the old days of your circle of influence and give them the inspiration and autonomy to do something great. I think it was great when I started with Arash, and I tend to think pretty creatively and big picture, and Arash told me, he said, Dan, just think of everything that you ever wanted to do in HR, and you've had all of the red tape in organizations that you haven't been able to do it. There is no red tape. And it was like just removing the red tape of like kind of the old adage of beg for forgiveness versus ask for permission, of like just rip off the red tape and run with it. I think we've been very successful in doing it.
I think you have been too. No, this is great. And I loved your approach to have people work on something they're passionate about and then bring it all together. And yeah, I mean, if you were to give one piece of advice to the fellow leaders in the audience, what would that be?
I think it's really about understanding the needs of the people, understanding the business. I think when people start talking about ROI, they just automatically go to financial, right? They go to the financial. What are the financial returns? If we're going to invest, $100,000 into this platform, what is our ROI on it? I tend to look at ROI as what is the return that you're trying to get, and that's really how you measure ROI. So if it's listen, we have 25 hotels in the pipeline. So my ROI is that I want to grow the organization. So a investment into SH University to prepare our leaders and partner with Cornell to certify our leaders and prepare them for the next step in their career, it's a no-brainer. I mean, you look at the costs and say, yes, there's costs associated, and what's the financial return? Well, I can tell you that the people return is the last 4 general managers in our company were all promoted internally. Um, so when you look at that, for those of the people in the hotel business out there, when you look at a headhunter fees of, a $200,000 general manager times 20% fee for a headhunter, I mean, you're looking at $40,000. So my ROI on SH University, it paid for itself 4 times over just with those 4 promotions. So it's really understanding the business and where are we going and what resources and tools, am I putting in place to help get us there. I always say that the question that every HR professional and CEO should be asking themselves is, what do we want to be known for? And what are the systems that we need to put in place to help get us there? when you can identify what you want to be known for, you know, it's not easy, but it becomes very focused of what you need to do to help get you there. Um, you know, I always say that we're not a commodity, so it's not just, you know, you know, we really are focused on what we're doing and creating, you know, distinctive, unique brands. And I always tell our team we're out to change the world one guest and one team member at a time. You know, so you know, I think that's the thing that I would, you know, the bit of advice I would give our, you know, the people on this session is really understanding the business, understanding um, the people, and what are the goals of the organization, and what are you doing to help bring those goals to life. Um, so yeah, pretty interesting. But when you understand that, it becomes you know, the vision becomes pretty clear on what you need to do.
Yes, no, this is fascinating, and I think it's spot on. Um, so that was my last question, but we do have a couple of questions that we received. So thank you for sending them in. One is about the ROI, and I think you kind of answered this question, but let me know if you have anything else to add. So it's difficult to show ROI from HR investments. What ROI do you consider, and how do you calculate it? Do you have anything to add to what you
Yeah,
just said?
you know, it's interesting. I can tell you just a personal example that we used is, you know, about 18 months ago, we launched SH University, and our partner with that is companystudy.com. They asked me, what would success look like to you in a year or 2 years? And so our SH University really has 4 different tracks. One is a standard kind of corporate university where team members have access to over 6,000 courses that they can take, you know, depending on what their specific needs are, which is amazing in itself, and it's all, you know, done through your mobile device, and so really fascinating. But there's 3 other parts of SH University that I think are really distinctive, and the first one is that team members can get their GED through SH University, and they can get it through their mobile device. So they can, you know, take courses on their way to work. If they're in New York and ride the train, they can actually take courses to get their GED. And in the hospitality industry, for various reasons, you know, several of our team members weren't able to finish high school. So this gives them the ability to get their GED. Um, we also have, through our SH University, a college accelerator program. So all in for a bachelor's degree, they can get it in about 2 years, and for about $7,000 after tuition assistance, which most people know is like 1 semester at a traditional university. So to be able to go through the college accelerator program, and again, everything is through their mobile device. So if they have a phone, they have access to all of the courses. And the last thing that we did is our executive development program, really focused on our senior leaders, and we partnered with Cornell University and eCornell for their executive development program. So we were able to really address needs in all different areas. Now, if you ask me what the ROI is, like I mentioned earlier, you know, our last 4 general managers were all promoted internally. That paid for SH University. Everything else that we've taken that has happened, you know, in 18 months, we've had our employees take over 8,000 courses through SH University. You know, and as we're growing as a company, that the ROI, you know, it's paid for itself already, and we're just getting started with it.
Thank you. And we have one more question. How do you recommend that we assess different technologies and vendors? I mean, there are a lot of vendors out there, so I think
Yeah.
it's difficult. Mhm.
If most of the people on the session are like me, I get hit up about 16 times a day on LinkedIn with, I just want 20 minutes of your time to talk about this new product. And I think the first thing in assessing vendors is you have to ask yourself, what are your needs? And then you go kind of track down the vendors that kind of meet those needs, versus a vendor trying to sell you on why you should, you know, buy their platform. You know, I think it's really about understanding, again, understanding your business, understanding your people, and understanding your culture. And if it doesn't hit on all three of those, then it's a hard no for us. It really has to. Does it reinforce our culture? Does it meet the business needs? And does it help enhance our team members? And if it doesn't do those three things, it's a hard no and kind of move forward. Um, I think the other thing that a lot of people have been faced with over the last year is that you're being hit up by hundreds of vendors across the globe, and the reality is, for a time in 2020, several of our hotels were shut down. We were, the financial impact of our industry was devastating. We're very fortunate that our parent company is Starwood Capital, and our founder Barry Sternlicht, um, you know, was able to help support all of our hotels during this time and keep all of our hotels up and running. But so many weren't in that situation. So, I think it's really asking yourself, does it reinforce your culture? Does it reinforce your values? And, does it help your people? And does it help the business? And if it does those things, great, I'm all ears. If it doesn't, it's kind of a hard no. So I think understanding, your specific needs first, and then researching the vendors versus, having a vendor reach out to try and sell you something.
Yeah, Dan, thank you very much for sharing your thoughts and for joining us today. Um, and I would also like to thank everyone in the audience for your participation in this session and overall today in the HR track. We had some great sessions, speakers, and moderators, and Beekeeper very much appreciates your participation and we look forward to the next Frontline Summit. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and thanks to the audience.